Anthony Victori nervously adjusted his backpack strap, trying to steady his trembling hands. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing in his ears. He spotted Hannah across the crowded school hallway, her presence commanding his attention. She was laughing with her friends, completely unaware of his gaze. Her long, dark hair shimmered under the fluorescent lights, making her look almost ethereal. He wanted to talk to her, he really did, but the words seemed to stick in his throat. His feet felt glued to the floor as if they were made of lead. Taking a deep breath, Anthony finally mustered the courage to approach her.
Hey, Hannah.
His voice cracked slightly. Hannah's smile vanished, replaced by a frown. She glanced at him, her eyes cold and unwelcoming. Without a word, she turned back to her friends, dismissing him entirely. They giggled, their eyes darting between Anthony and Hannah, making him feel even smaller. Anthony's face flushed with embarrassment. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. He mumbled a goodbye and scurried away, his heart sinking deeper with each step. He couldn't figure out why Hannah always acted so distant, so unreachable. Why was she so impossible to reach? The question haunted him. After school, Anthony found himself hanging out with his friends, Max and Chloe. They dared him to explore the abandoned asylum on the edge of town. Legend had it, the place was haunted.
No way, that place is creepy.
What are you, scared?
Max nudged him. Anthony couldn't let his friends think he was a chicken.
Fine, let's go.
Though his stomach churned, they met by the rusted gates of the asylum as the sun began to set. Hannah was there, to Anthony's surprise. She had come with Chloe. She looked less than thrilled to be there, her arms crossed tightly across her chest. Anthony took a deep breath. This was going to be a long night. The asylum was even creepier on the inside, with shadows dancing on the walls and an eerie silence that seemed to swallow every sound. Cobwebs hung from every corner, swaying gently as if moved by unseen hands. Dust covered the floor like a thick blanket, undisturbed for years, adding to the sense of abandonment. The air was heavy with the smell of decay, a pungent reminder of the building's long-forgotten past. The 5 teenagers wandered deeper into the building, their flashlights casting long, trembling shadows. They giggled nervously, their voices echoing in the silence, trying to mask their growing fear. Suddenly, a figure darted past the end of the hallway, a fleeting shadow that sent chills down their spines.
What was that? Did you see it too?
Chloe whispered, her eyes wide with fear, her voice barely audible. Before anyone could answer, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, freezing them in their tracks. It came from the room just ahead, a place they had yet to explore. The teens froze, their blood turning to ice, unable to move or speak. Anthony's heart hammered against his ribs, each beat louder than the last. They crept towards the sound, their breath catching in their throats, every step a struggle against their fear. The door to the room hung open, creaking slightly in the breeze, as if inviting them in. Inside, they found Max and Chloe lying in pools of blood, their lifeless eyes staring blankly. Standing over them was a woman with wild eyes and a bloody knife, her face twisted in a sinister grin.
Run, we have to get out of here now.
Anthony grabbed Hannah's hand and they fled. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before them. They ducked into a small room and hid behind a pile of rotting mattresses. Anthony could hear the woman's heavy footsteps coming closer. Hannah was trembling, her eyes wide with terror.
It's okay.
Anthony whispered, though his voice shook.
I won't let her hurt you.
He looked into her eyes, and in that moment he knew he meant it with every fiber of his being. He would protect her, even if it cost him his life. The footsteps faded. They were safe for now. They stayed hidden for what felt like hours, every second stretching into an eternity. The only sound was their own ragged breathing, echoing in the oppressive silence. Finally, Anthony spoke, his voice barely a whisper, breaking the heavy silence.
We have to get out of here. We can't stay hidden forever.
But how? The question hung in the air unanswered. The woman was clearly insane, her eyes wild with a manic gleam. She was blocking the only exit. They were trapped. Hannah's eyes widened in fear.
I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. It's risky.
She explained her plan, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Anthony stared at her, his jaw slack, unable to believe what he was hearing.
Are you sure? This could go horribly wrong.
He asked, his voice filled with doubt and concern.
It's our only chance. We have to try.
They gathered what few materials they could find in the dilapidated room. Old rags, lighter fluid, anything flammable. Every second counted. Then, with trembling hands, they began to set their trap, hoping it would work. It was a long shot, but they were desperate, clinging to any hope they could find. They retreated to the safest corner of the room, as far away from the potential blast as possible, their hearts racing.
For this to work, we need to ask for help. Help from who? Who would come to their aid in such a dire situation?
Anthony asked, his voice skeptical, not believing what he was hearing.
Archangel Azrael, the angel of death. He is our only hope.
Anthony thought she'd gone mad, but there was no other option. But he joined her anyway, repeating the ancient words she whispered, their voices blending in the dim light. They waited, their hearts pounding in unison, every beat echoing their fear and hope. Then with a deafening roar, the building exploded, sending debris flying in all directions.